to be showtime for real, though.
Barbie!
Come on in. Well, we already started. Let's go. Everyone, okay. So, Barbie. I don't know where the rest are. They're like waiting.
They're only doing it to embarrass me. It's okay.
You're number one.
So, Barbie, how was your convention?
It's been fabulous. Wonderful.
All right. Welcome. All right, do we have enough? That's me. Do we have enough chairs? Yes, we do. Wonderful. Everybody, welcome. Some of you welcome back. Some of you welcome for the first time. It's so wonderful to have you newcomers here. Oh, well, I don't know what's over my hair, so. me and they're at the same hairdresser. Yeah. So, and we also only have 3 mics, so we're going to be playing musical mics, if that's okay.
Support. Oh, that's working.
Yes, we're good now. Huge. So I would love to open this up for everyone, and I would love to know.
Sorry.
It starts now.
This is going to be a fun one, I can tell already.
It's not the size, it's how you use it, I'm told.
Okay, so I would truly love to know, what was your first exposure to the Hellraiser franchise? Did you read the Hellbound Heart first? Did you watch the movies, for those of you who were in the later movies? What was that, and how was that like for you?
How are we going to do it?
Talking to?
Anyone who wants to start.
I'll start. Come on.
Well, I read the Hellbound Heart. Is this definitely on? I don't think it is.
Kale.
I read the Hellbound Heart and then played part to be in Hellraiser. I said yes.
Kale. Number two. No? Better?
Can I?
Go for it.
I saw the first film because Clive Barker's name was on everybody's lips in 1987 when the film came out, and also Stephen King said, "I've seen the future of horror, and it is Clive Barker." So I went to see it, and I thought, "Fuck me, that's fuck." So I thought, when I got the call for the audition to be the female Cenobite in the second one, I didn't want to go. Because I thought they wanted me to play his part. And I hate mask work. I've done a commercial with smelly masks, and I thought, no. And then I finally was told by my friend Jeff from Lancashire, I'm going to do a really bad Lancashire accent.
Go on then, Will.
Oh, go on, Bobby. 30 years from now, there'll be writing books about you, Barbie Wild, Queen of the Bees. So I went to the audition.
Translator.
He'd lived in Tokyo for a while.
Anyway, I don't claim to do accents. So I got the part because I was a trained mime artist, and I think they thought, mistakenly in my part, that mime artists were patient under the makeup process. And, I also knew what the word Cenobite meant. Tony Randall thought it was a word that Clive made up. And I said, no, it actually means a member of a religious order. And he said, no, it was Clive made it up. And I went, no. Tip for auditions, don't argue with the director, but he still gave me the job. So. What? I was still right.
So, next.
What's the number on that mic?
Yeah, 60.
What's the number on that mic?
What's the number on the mic that's not working?
The number. What's the number on
Your
the mic?
mic.
Two.
One.
It was 2.
You're working, Nick.
I'm up now.
So far.
How did I get that? Actually, how I got the part of Hellraiser as a friend of Clyde's. I met him at a party, probably through Simon, I suspect. Because Simon and I were at drama school together. And Simon will tell you his half of the story. But I met Clyde, I did some modelling for him. Has everyone heard of the Books of Blood?
Yes.
The paintings on the fronts of the Books of Blood, particularly Volume 4, is one of my favourite portraits of me. The one where my head's open and you can see my brains and syringes dropping into it. And are there any children in the room? Yes, probably. Okay, there are parts of the human anatomy associated with pleasure. And definitely a happy ending on. I'm sure there is a tongue up there as well, but yeah. And he just said, and Simon and I he said the same question to us: do you want to be in a movie? There is some makeup involved. So yeah, that's how I got to play Jaffa.
How you doing? Well, for me, I was, nothing took place because I was from abroad, I had an accent, all of these things. And with a friend, we started working with the part. So we worked for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then when I got in the room, I was Angelique, absolutely. So I had a blast, with the character, and Angelique, I had a real blast doing this character. So that,
So I've known Clive for a while. Nick and I were at drama school together, and Clive and Doug lived around the corner. And Clive had just written the Books of Blood, and was having trouble with the titles of some of them, coming up with the right titles. So we went to a party together, and I was only 17, this is my justification, 17, 18, and I'd made some special brownies to take to the party. And Clive has a very sweet tooth. Very sweet tooth. And we went to this party and Clive was there and I said, oh look, I've bought these special brownies for you, Clive. And he went, oh lovely, fantastic. So I went round and was socialising with everybody and went back to have one of my brownies and they were all gone. And I said, Clive, what did you do with my special brownies? And he said, well, I ate them all. They're absolutely delicious. And evidently, that night he went to bed and slept incredibly well, and woke up the next morning and had every title to the Books of Blood in his head, so he was credited with me with that. And I think because of that, we created a bond, and then years later I rang him to see how he was, and he said, I'm about to make a movie, do you want to play a monster? And I went, yeah, okay. That's it.
Why not?
Okay, they've only made it out too then.
Hello.
Well, these earrings too big.
Oh, that'll do. Hi, well, Hellraiser. Well, I was offered that film, and I turned it down. And I was offered it again, and I turned it down. And then Clive rang my agent and said, let's meet. And I met him and I said, yes, I'll do the film. Because Clive is such
Charming.
a wonderfully charming guy. And I also thought to myself, there's something about this guy's head. I've never met anybody with a head like this, And I'll never forget making this movie because I didn't think we had any idea what we were making.
No.
And, people how there was a feeling like, oh, it might just go straight to video, you know? It was low budget. It was filmed in this freezing dark house in North London. Oh, God. And we just had no idea. Anyway, months later, it came out. And my agent called me that morning and he said, have you read the newspapers today? And I said, no. He said, we should go out and get them all because you're the new queen of horror. Except this movie has broken ground. I thought he said broken wind. I said, sorry? That too. And he said it's absolutely extraordinary reviews and all of this. But what I remember most about making it was how much we laughed. And I think when you're dealing with quite dark material, you tend to giggle all the time. And we did. And I remember a journalist came. I don't know if any of you were there that day. I think from Evening Standard, rather a snotty journalist. And there was a part of a corpse lying on the floor, as there always was, covered in fake blood, you know, the kind that you just poured all over yourselves, gallons and gallons. And this journalist was going, so what sort of film is this? You know, and Clive and I looked at each other, and Clive said, would you like some coffee and donuts? And she went, So in comes the coffee, in comes the donuts. And Clive looked at me and he went, so, and he was talking to me, he leaned down and swiped the donut in the blood on the corpse. So actually then, I said, would you like a donut? I said, well, the interview was over in 30 seconds. She said, I've never seen anyone move so fast. That was, and I remember that so clearly. That was just fabulous. But I also remember the special effects guys, because everything was made, handmade. And these guys were so in love with what they were doing. There's no CGI, there's nothing that's not alive in that film. And I think you can feel that. It was all made with love and care and real, and they were thrilled they were being allowed to do all this stuff. And I think that really shows. It was made with a lot of care and a lot of love. And God, I remember it fondly. But I'll never forget that ghastly journalist. She got hers. Who's that?
My name is Paula. I don't have an accent like most people do. I'm just a boring American. Christine's also a boring American. So we stick together. I auditioned. I lived in New York City. Hellraiser 3 was my first movie I'd ever done. I read for Tony Hickox, the director, in, I think it was like on 42nd Street, somewhere in a tall building. I went home, my agents called and said they want you to play the role of Terry, and would I dye my hair? I'm like, yeah, sure. Because the other girl, Terry Farrell, who was a model and so pretty, we kind of had the same color hair, so they wanted us to look slightly different. I don't know Clive. I'm just an American. So I never had the opportunity to, you know, eat bloody donuts with him. It's sad. It's sad but true. Anyway, thanks for being here. This is my first con.
Maybe it works out. Hello. Thank you for being here, you guys. This is my first con too. My name is Christine. So let's see. When I got Hellraiser, so the real story is my manager at the time represented this actress whose husband was directing this fourth Hellraiser, and so they offered it to me. I'm a rom-com kind of girl, like those are the movies I watch. So I was like, Hellraiser, what am I going to do with Hellraiser? Okay, because I needed money, I was a young actress, and I went in and did it. Everybody was really nice. There was a lot of conflict on the fourth movie. But I did it, and then I just moved on. I didn't really look back. And now to have this come back around, it's been almost 30 years or something like that for me since
This
I made
year,
it.
94,
Yeah.
shot Bloodline.
Yeah. And to be able to have this in my life is so sweet, you guys. I can't tell you how much it means to me, and I'm sure I can speak for everybody how much it means to us. It's really cool. So thanks for your continued support.
I have
It's awesome.
I have not laid eyes on Christine since we were working on Bloodline.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And so it's really cool for us to always get to see each other now forevermore. It would be cool. So.
Yeah.
Did you go first?
I did.
I thought so,
told you.
but you did. Your mic wasn't working.
No, I shouted. You heard me. Clive asked me to do the movie. I said yes. I mean, I'd worked with Clive for 10 years in the theatre before that. I met Clive in about 1969 in rehearsals for the school play at Quarrybank High School in Liverpool. The day that changed my life, basically. Then after school and university, we worked in theatre in Liverpool and then in London. And that came to an end. And Clive was giving me these handwritten manuscripts saying to me, quote unquote, I'm trying to write a few short horror stories to see if I can make a bit of money. That worked. And then I had a conversation with him towards the end of 1985, which was as brief as, oh, by the way, I'm trying to put together a low-budget independent British horror movie. I think there's a part in there for you. Oh, great, cool. Have you seen The Price of Fish lately? You know, brief. And a year later, we were gathered round the duck pond at Cricklewood Production Village.
Yes.
With the cameras rolling on Hellraiser. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? My personal opinion is 80s horror has a special.
Oh, this is a long
Extraordinary.
discussion.
All nostalgia committed me with Alien, which really, I don't know about you guys, but it really did change my perspective on things, and I like sci-fi horror. But it was almost like the culmination of that film, Hellraiser. It just changed. It was like this breakthrough. Also, how many horror films do you see that have the most extraordinary relationship between a man and a woman, like between Julia and Frank? It was S&M. It was amazing, and that's still, it just made it so amazing. Didn't they cut a scene where he spanks you? Do you remember that?
Clive?
No, that was a private video.
Oh my God! The censors were kind of, whoa, what's going on there with that?
No, unfortunately, he never got to spank me. I regret it to this day.
I do remember saying, Clive saying that actually the UK censors were quite kind to it, and there was one tiny cut they wanted, which was one of the businessmen we were discussing earlier, the follically challenged businessmen with English accents in this unnamed American city that you kept dishing out of bars and bringing home to beat their brains out to feed to your deadline. Standard plot device, familiar to rom-coms everywhere. There was one moment where you took the swipe with the hammer and the camera cut back to you and you had a half smile on your face.
Yeah.
And the censors objected to the idea that you might be enjoying this.
Those censors are sick. What's wrong with these people?
Amazing.
Just-
Maybe the scene was in there, but it was cut before you got to do it, and I'm so sorry.
I'm still upset about it. Oh my goodness. So, one last question before I turn it out to the audience. Now, I have a podcast called The Dolls of Horror. We have covered Hellraiser 1 and 2, and we did record 3, though we didn't release it. And we're going to eventually do all of them. And a segment in the podcast is prop we would like to own. Now, one of us picked Skinless Ring, and one of us picked Skinless Julia. Or maybe that was the fashion moment, I am not sure. Do you guys have a prop from your respective movie that you would like to own or did own?
Yeah, I can answer that one. What I always wanted to remember at the time is, so Chatterer costume was in 2 parts, the leather trousers, and then there was the jacket. And this jacket, they'd literally taken a life cast from elbow to knees so that they could make this leather costume as tightly fitting as possible. I was a lot slimmer in those days. But I just remember looking at this and all this wonderful musculature and so on as a jacket. And I thought, I really wish they had to just make a jacket that is Chatterer's jacket from Hellraiser as something I could just wear on a day-to-day basis.
Can't you just order that from Craig?
Craig is my husband who made my shirt, just to put that in context. Yeah, he is incredibly talented. I don't think he wants to take up leather work. And I'm not going any further with that conversation.
What was the question?
Well, you'd like to own.
A prop from Hellraiser.
Yes, yeah, you would like to own.
Lots. An original puzzle box would be really cool.
That's mine.
Have you got one?
No,
Yes.
Look at their faces, you come on.
The prop man laughed at me when I asked him.
I told him to do that.
My
But
character.
I have seen, it's at home on a bookshelf. Quite often people go, ooh, that looks interesting. Wow. Before you touch that, you should know something. I didn't want to get into it.
So you got a real one? You actually got a real box?
Yeah. I just stole it, you know.
Do you know how much they are selling for a prop store?
That's not for sale. Never.
Well, I've got one. I mean, but was yours one of the original working model
Yes.
ones? Wow. That is one.
Go see the rumble.
You're all jealous now.
I got one.
I have to get through my security vote.
Where do you live again?
I had one on Hellraiser 3 when we were doing the reshoots. Only because I could see, I was having my makeup taken off, and I could see fucking Tony giving the things away to his girlfriends. Just by the day, you know.
Tony Hillcox. What cox?
Dr. Seuss.
Try Hickox.
So, Tony Hillcox. I actually knew him a bit in the 80s. So
Right.
he was giving the boxes away.
Basically, so I said to...
We've uncovered a scandal.
I said to Chris Martin, the first AD, excuse me? He said, yeah. I said, Tony, boxes? I said, don't you have one? I said, no. He said, 5 minutes later he came back. But it's only a hero box. So it's a block of wood with metal faces on it and lacquered over it. But, you know, matters to me. I'd have Pinhead's original costume. And I have my nameplate from Pinewood Studios with my name on it. Handwritten in beautiful lettering, which I took with me when we went. Should pause to say, by the way, the late Tony Hickox, who died only a couple of months ago. Yeah, really, really sad loss to the horror family. Son of Douglas Hickox, of course, who directed Theatre of Blood, among many other things.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
One of my favorite Vincent.
I do have a mattress at home.
We've all got one, sir.
You are not unique.
Does it have all the chains?
Does it have the chains?
Has it got
Does it have
chains
the
and
blood?
blood?
So,
Just Claire emerged
Am
from the
I
depths.
So I did have a mattress that looked like the mattress with all the blood on it, and that came from I was about to do some extra work on a film called Quadrophenia, and and
Oh no!
It's that
Oh no! Is it that story?
It's that story. Okay. She'll cover the ears of children. Yeah. Okay.
And yes, so I was staying. My agent said you can come up with your partner and stay in my flat before going to film your scenes on Quadrophenia. And oh, fine, cool. And again, I was very young. I think I was only 16, 17 then. And as a 16, 17-year-old, we were doing the business like you do, because you can't really stop yourself. And it was very, very satisfying, far more than normal. You know what I mean? And in the morning, I felt a bit sticky, shall we say. And when I looked down, I had split my urethra. And I knew nothing about it. Because in the moment, in the ecstasy,
What did you spell?
my urethra.
No, it's not urethra.
No, not urethra?
It's the little piece of skin just below.
Anyway.
Oh my God!
I am
explaining how.
spurting blood onto this mattress for several hours during the night, it seems. And so I did have a mattress that looked a little bit like your mattress.
Aren't you glad you heard this story? Yes.
Pleasure from pain.
I don't have a Hellraiser box, but I did, for whatever reason, take my wardrobe. And I have told this story to a few of you guys out there. I have the jeans, I have that silvery vest, and I'm on a show right now called Euphoria, if anyone's seen it. And they decided, Sam Levinson, the director, I think the reason I got the part of Euphoria was because of Hellraiser 3, and I don't know exactly why, but they were doing a young Marsha, I'll make the story short, and I knew Sam liked Hellraiser 3, and so I went to the wardrobe department and I said, you know, I know they're casting a young me, and I know Sam likes Hellraiser. I have some clothes from Hellraiser 3, would you guys be interested? And so they took the jeans that I wore and they recreated this little tank toppy thing, because I didn't have that, and they remade it. And so young Marsha on Euphoria is wearing Paula Marshall Terry clothes from Hellraiser, and nobody knows it. Like, only you guys do, and the wardrobe person and Sam Levinson. So there's this little homage to Hellraiser 3 in the second season of Euphoria with young Marsha. So I'm glad I stole the clothes.
I don't have anything from Hellraiser, but yeah, I would love, looking back now and looking at all the photos, to have the jacket from that.
Yeah.
Like maybe
Yeah.
what you
All I have are my sweet, sweet memories. Oh, what do I want? Well, I said, I asked for one of the boxes and they laughed at me. So I just didn't make that up. But that, to me, it's so, thank you, iconic.
Well, I wish I had Angelique's dress, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a really great design. I thought it was like an amazing wardrobe, and I had a blast.
Oh, I see that.
And the shoes, they were really great shoes. And what else? Memories. Lots of memories, I want. I've got my earrings. They're big star shaped.
Yes.
Yeah. I just stole them, you know.
I like your attitude.
Thanks. And a couple of the blouses, because I had 3 or 4, because they got so much blood on them, you know. So I made sure that one copy of each never got near the blood. And so I've still got them, and I don't wear them. I just have them. And I just like that. And those earrings are in a special box. Because they really...
Those earrings themselves are iconic now.
Yeah, those earrings to me sum up the whole thing of Julie. I don't know why. But they just do. And I just love looking at them. And that brings back so many memories. But you know, when I think about it, there are so many memories. And I just replay them in my head sometimes. And I just think, oh God, it was only a 6-week shoot, I said.
Yeah.
Hellraiser. But it seemed, I don't know, looking back, it seemed longer. I don't know how we shot that scene in 6 weeks. But we did. I wish I'd taken, well, stolen, let's be honest, more. But I got what I could smuggle in my handbag, so.
The hammer. You know, we also talked about this on the show because we pick a fashion moment, and one of us picked your earrings. It was a sign of the time, but it was also your character changed through your wardrobe.
Yes.
And your facial expressions and your hair.
Yeah.
And with each, you came in kind of soft, like physically soft in your clothes and such.
Yeah.
And with each kill, your hair got stiffer. Your wardrobe got stiffer and tighter, and you know, this pointy ass earrings. It was part of Julia's hardness, and it was great.
Yeah. The design was spot on.
That is a perk of being actors, is we do get to take our stuff a lot of times. If we're
Or
really
you steal it.
Or you steal it. There's that too.
All right, audience members, questions? Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, you're really the only hero up here out of anyone.
That's true. These
So-
guys are all...
But everybody has, especially when you see the end of Hellraiser 2, everybody has a kind of a victim story. Except for you. So, how do we feel?
Paula has a terrific victim story.
No, she does. Julia and Angelique. So, who do we feel is the victim and the most evil out of all
What
of
do
your
you mean a
characters?
victim? Sorry, what do you mean a victim?
Well, I mean, you might have been pulled in by your desires.
That's being a victim?
To a degree. As to, like, Julia was driven by her desires, but when you look at it, all of you, we didn't get the full backstory of maybe what Julia was and became. Well, we did get that. We didn't get the rest of y'all. So we saw a glimpse of your innocence at the end of Hellraiser 2. All of you when you returned back.
Yeah.
And we were kind of all taken aback, like, wow, these were all just people that chose this direction. So we got to see your evolution as really to me, kind of the most evil character of the entire series.
Thanks.
Which is
Yeah.
amazing. Your character was an embodied demon, fully. So we didn't really get to see any choices there. Demon, we get to see your evolution. Hero, but the rest of everybody made either a weird, poor decision out of innocence. So where is this weird line between victim and villain?
Okay, the first thing that in Hellraiser 2, Doug says to me is, first he says no. And I go, no. And he says,
You have to say that again.
okay, sorry.
Yes. I say, when Tiffany opens the box, I'm not sure what relevance this is
No,
to
it-
this,
it
but
makes sense.
Tiffany opens the box and the Cenobites come pouring in and Pinhead says no. And Channard and Julia are watching everything through the broken two-way mirror thing at the side. And Pinhead says, no, it is not hands that call us, it is desire. So it's not the simple mechanical process of managing to open the lament configuration. You have to do it with the right, wrong motivation for the Cenobites to happen to you.
You also say something great to Paul's character as Terry. In part 3, you say there is no good and there is no evil. So you all present a very gray area in this moral conflict we all deal
Yes.
with.
Well, Pinhead was mind fucking with everybody.
Are you gaslighting?
If you have a quality, let it define you. All of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you did see the process with Elliot Spencer's journey into Pinhead. You see Pinhead reverting back to childhood, back to human form. But you see the moment of Elliot Spencer opening the box. Now, if we hadn't had the budget slashed because of the whatever fucking financial crisis the Tories had landed us in at that particular moment, which wiped a third off the budget as it was being transferred from Los Angeles to London, there would have been 2 prior scenes at the beginning of Hellbound. So you would have seen Elliot in an Indian street bazaar, looking for the place, finding it, going in, and then you would have had the classic Hellraiser transaction scene.
Yeah.
You know, what's your pleasure? What's it worth to you? That transaction. Then he gets the box, and then we go back to the concert hall. Those 2 scenes would have required 2 separate sets building for what were basically establishing shots and scenes, so they went and you come straight into the concert hall. So he's not an innocent victim at all. He's made the decision. I could talk a great deal more, but we don't have time to talk about the journey in my own head for Elliot from the trenches on the front line in the First World War, which is where we see him in Hellraiser 3, to what, maybe 3 or 4, 5 years later, where he's chosen to stay in the British Army, and he's now fighting in the early 1920s to put down the Indian Mutiny, which is the point at which he gets transformed into Pinhead.
And I actually asked you that question last year.
Is his line too, so it's a voluntary transition for him.
What the question last year I actually asked is when do you think Elliot Spencer lost that innocence and fully became Pinhead? And you went back into the war in a very descriptive element of that, and it was a beautiful thing to witness your discussion of all of that. And I know we don't have time for that, but there was a point.
Here, right?
I'll say very quickly that when we were approaching Hellraiser 3, and Pete Atkins had very deliberately and very brilliantly written both the First World War and the Vietnam War into the story as being very precisely Britain and America's Hells on Earth, as per the title. And I was kind of throwing all these ideas around in my head, and then I watched a documentary on the BBC which was talking to survivors of the Battle of the Somme, and there still were some in the 90s still around at this point. And one of them said, and I talked about how for the British Army in the First World War, the battalions were very, very local, very, very local, down to villages. So everybody knew each other, and there were brothers and cousins and so forth. And roll call the next day was name, 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 silence, 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 present. Silence, silence, present, present, silence, 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 silence. And all the silences represented people who had been killed on the first day of the Battle of the Somme. And this man said, I shouldn't be here. I should have died. I belong under the soil of northern France with my comrades. I shouldn't be alive. And I thought, thank you. Wow. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the worm in Elliot's head that led to that.
I just wanted to just come back to what you're saying. I certainly don't regard my character as a victim. She made the conscious decision. She wanted to be a member of the Order of the Gash, and she went through the process. So I don't feel the female Cenobite was a victim. She died again. I'm almost a bit confused about how you're dead and then you're dead again. But you know, that's my own personal opinion about the character. I don't know how you guys feel as Cenobites.
I wrote a short story called Prayers of Desire. And that literally just, so how does someone who appears to be a child end up in hell and grow up in hell? I think that's what I find absolutely fascinating, is like this idea that there is a young person who, the Chatterer is obviously an adult. And as, because I was writing it, I was basing it on the first two films, this whole idea, as I said, it's called Prayers of Desire. And the original subtitle to the first film, in fact we have among little badges, is that there are no limits. So I think it's, yeah, I think it's probably going to say the same things. I'm conscious there are other people who have questions they want to ask as well.
We need a lot of time on you.
And we only have time for one more. I know, I'm going into the back, because I never go to the back. Yeah.
My question, I guess, is for everybody. Hellraiser's known for having some amazing creature designs. Apart from the creatures that you played, what's some of your favorite designs from the franchise? By the way, my favorite is Chatterer, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Start with Simon and go down the line.
I suppose my favourite design creature from the franchise has to be Pinhead, to be honest.
Yeah.
Of course.
I have to say that, otherwise I won't be at the next convention.
The check's in the post.
Thank you very much. I remember when we were on the very first film, and for the very first day's shooting, where we were all seeing our makeups for the first time, and Doug's was by far away the most extraordinary image at a time when nobody had ever seen anything like that, when piercings really weren't really happening at all, apart from maybe in African villages. It was
An odd 70 pin here and there for
yes.
pump days.
Yes, well, guilty. Yeah, that would be mine. It has to be Pinhead, I think.
Well, I totally agree. Also, I think Pinhead was very, very scared to work with him. For me, I mean, because every time he put on the costume, I was terrified. And then he takes the costume. He's such a nice person. And I'm like, oh my God, how come, a costume, a character, an actor, how come, it's so impressive. Magic, of course. So yes, for me too. I want to come back next year. So I think that is the best. I mean, and all the characters, the ladies, Cenobites, and everybody that worked in these Cenobites. I'm really thankful to be here, and I'm really thankful for you guys to support us and to be here with us. So for me, that's it.
It's honestly Chatterer, because it is such a personal thing for me.
Other than you, I'm sure.
I know, but I will come to that next. And I have to say, it's Julia. And the shot I particularly remember is when you're on the set. It's after you've done the murders, you and your husband are watching the boxing on the TV. And you're just there, and it's the transformation we referred to earlier on, and it's part of the genius of that performance, is that transformation, and just by doing nothing, possibly smoking, that is the image that I kind of really just haunts me, and it's like, Hellraiser, yeah, it's Julia.
I actually thought...
I'll pay you later.
I thought you meant the design. Was the question design? Because the
design element, or particularly a character?
Well, Julia's skinless design was pretty great.
Oh, yeah. Well, to me, I think the winner has to be Julia's shoulder pads. I had enormous shoulder pads. Obviously, you know, when I first saw the first film, it was the pinhead that was absolutely wonderful. But also, although I haven't seen all of it, I thought your design was superb. Absolutely. But of course, hold on, we've forgotten something, an inanimate object element configuration.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible. Oh, yeah. But the design element, I think, is the pinhead thing. It was iconic.
Yeah.
Well, you've stolen my thunder slightly. I would return the compliment, because I always had a bit of a thing for the top of Veronique's head. I have to say. Rather lovely in the way you've been flayed. Always impressed me. But no, for me, and it actually is the heart of the movie, and it is the heart of the franchise, it is the lament configuration. It is an extraordinary idea. I mean, it encompasses a lot of other ideas. This is very common with the way that Clive's imagination works. So I've even today heard somebody talking in conversation with somebody else in front of my table, just referring to it as the Pandora's box, which it is, and it's the genie of the lamp, and it's all of these things. But it's an extraordinary design, and if you and a brilliant piece of work by the late Simon Sace, who constructed it. If you can find on YouTube Simon talking about the way that he designed it and the way that all the designs on the facets of the box tell a story and in themselves involve characters. It's quite extraordinary, it's quite wonderful, it's quite amazing, and it is the silently beating heart that drives the whole thing, and it's just an extraordinary element that only someone with Clive's genius could have constructed it, I think.
I just want to pop in for a second, because as much as I love the characters, hello darlings, is that to me, and I've always felt that Julia was the diva of the first two films. Her this sounds really wanky, but it's the narrative arc of her character.
You have to translate that to for Americans.
American.
Masturbatory.
From mousy housewife to a woman who's willing to hit men on the back of the head so her lover can get his skin back. You have to admire her dedication.
That's all about Julia's box, right?
I gotta say, well, for me, it is Pinhead. I'll never forget the first time I saw it. I was absolutely speechless. I thought it was the most remarkable image. Just remarkable. And it seemed to sum up something I can't even name, but something I sort of recognized. Oh, wow. I remember feeling frightened, emotional, and I thought how beautiful it was. You know, for me, the word iconic is overused nowadays, but that is iconic. I'm sorry, no one had ever done anything remotely like it, and nobody will ever have that impact for me again. There you go, you see. And yeah, for me, it's got to be that.
What was the line? Angels to some, demons to others. Angels to some.
Angel to some, demons
to others.
to
So
others.
it was an angelic demon or demonic demon.
Absolutely right. And I still remember the first time I saw you in it. Like I say, it was very emotional. Very emotional. It said something, like I say, I still can't put into words. But I'll never forget that moment.
Well, do you know what it was that made you think that it was familiar somehow, that you recognised?
Well, it was almost like something I'd seen in a dream. These images work on the unconscious, but so much. It was troubling as well.
Yes.
But the beauty of it was troubling, you know?
And I think it's interesting because Simon mentioned tribal art. I remember when I was going to Shepperton Studios for my live cast, and Jeff Portas, who deserves a lot of credit for having constructed and applied Pinhead's makeup in the first two movies, having worked on the design of them with Clive, he picked me up at the station to drive me to Shepperton, and he leant over and opened the glove box, and he says, "There's a couple of sketches in here that you might want to look at, which is what we think you're going to look like." And one was Pinhead as we know him from the movies. The other one was a much looser, more tribal thing. So he had the ear bits and the long lobes, and the design was not precise, and there were bits of extra stuff here and there. And I remember looking at them, and I looked at the tribal version, and I thought, this looks great. I looked at the other one, and I thought, but that's the one that Clive will go with, because it's what is described in the Hellbound Heart, but because it is a neat, ordered, carefully arranged, rationally considered, geometrically precise piece of self-mutilation. And those contradictions and everything that you've said, when I sat and looked at him in the mirror for the first time, what the hell am I looking at? And started trying to raise an eyebrow and smile and frown and say, "I'll tear your soul apart." All the impressions I was coming back, there was a sense of beauty, a sense of melancholy from him. I felt very strongly.
Very strong.
That I couldn't really make sense
Isolation.
of at all. And what I've always said about it is that it's a received image of pain. Because it's easy in a way to look at the image and not be aware of the agony that is involved in having a lot of nails banged into your head. So it's, and the threat is almost, look what I did to myself. Now think what I could do to you.
Oh. Ladies, did you want to contribute to that answer?
I was going to say, instead of answering Pinhead again, I want to give you guys one more chance to ask one more question instead of me rambling on about how great Pinhead is.
Specifically for these two.
Oh, it doesn't have to be. I'm just I want to give it to you. I want you guys to ask another question. Anything?
Yes, this is for Mr. Bradley. As somebody who has studied American serial killers and worked with a couple of murderers in jail, I try to put myself in their mindset to figure out what made these people, do whatever. How did you prepare yourself for this melancholy but yet dark world?
Wow. Well, you start by not being able to ask yourself any of the normal questions that an actor will ask. What do I like to wear? What earrings do I like? What do I eat for breakfast? What car do I drive? Do I like sports? And if I do, am I scared of boxing? Or do I love football? Or do I follow cricket or basketball? Or what? None of that applies. None of that applies. And as far as I knew, there was nowhere I could go to watch Cenobites at work. So I had two things. I had Clive Barker, and I spent quite a lot of time just, picking at him as we were approaching him. He gave me insights that aren't necessarily precisely helpful as an actor, but they're imaginative insights that you won't get anywhere else. He said to me, you should consider him a cross between a monk and a butcher. And you should consider him as a surgeon in a hospital. But this is a hospital that has no wards. It only has operating theatres. And you are also the head administrator. You are, as well as being the person who wields the knife, you are responsible for keeping everything running on time. You have that. You have the screenplay. You read the screenplay. You read the screenplay. There was a lot in the elements that were working around Pinhead that were familiar to me from theatre work with Clive. There was one particular character way back in the early 1970s, and I thought he was called the Dutchman, and he was a kind of witch finder character, and little light bulbs were going off in my head there. And I was aware that Clive, because I was being very familiar with Clive's writing over a very long time, you know, his style is naturally highly poetic. And I was very conscious coming to the screenplay that he was writing down, I don't mean that in a pejorative sense, but that he was kind of writing in movies, in just everyday language for the characters. And I felt instinctively that when he got to Pinhead, he let the handbrake off. It was like he was saying, "Right, now I can let fly." Because Pinhead's language is so distinctly different from the language of most of the other characters in the movie. But then for me, it was that moment of sitting in front of the mirror. I had 20 minutes in the makeup room on my own, just staring at this thing in the mirror. And I, unapologetically, I found probably 95% of what I thought I was doing, or hoped I thought I was doing. What then helped was walking on set, and everybody had the same reaction. Everybody took a step backwards.
Yeah.
And then everybody went, "Oh my God." And everybody took a step forward, and a step forward. "Oh my God."
Yeah.
"Oh my God. Can I?"
Yes.
So mix these all up in a bowl, and then you stand on your mark and someone says action, and you open your mouth and you hope it works.
Oh, it did.
Okay,
So you guys said earlier this was your first convention. I didn't know that. I want to welcome you, and I hope that we can get you back. Welcome to this world. Welcome. But please go to their tables and ask them the questions you didn't get to ask. And please give it up.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.